What's up, everybody? Joseph Hadaway here. So, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I only know how to talk about two things. Number one, Fiverr. I talk about Fiverr a lot. And number two, random shit that I find on Twitter. So, like about half my videos start, I was scrolling Twitter this week and I came across this. And that is a phenomenal question. Now, I was scrolling through the comments and people took it a few different ways, two really main ones. Number one, like this comment here, they took it in the sense of traditional retirement, 60, 65 years old, and you know what? Fair point. But I'm a FIRE channel, and Makai, the guy who posted this, has retire early in his name, so I'm assuming that he meant regular retirement, and if he didn't, I'm going to talk about it anyway. Basically, the point of today's video is we're going to talk about how and why you need to mentally prepare for FIRE, and why mentally preparing for FIRE is just as, if not more important than financially preparing for FIRE. So we're going to go through all that, along with a case study that I really like of a good friend of mine who has done well both mentally and financially preparing, and what we can learn from him and what you can take from his journey. Now, before I get into it, if you're new here, hi. No, I don't like the hi. Sammy, cut that out, please. Before we get into it, if you're new here, my name is Joseph Hadaway. I make weekly videos on personal finance, side hustles, the FIRE movement, you name it, I'll talk about it. If you like that kind of content and you want to learn more and some help along your FIRE journey, make sure to drop a sub. The point of this channel is for me to share my FIRE journey so I can use the tips and tricks that I learn to help you on yours. Now, with that said, let's get into it. Alright, so first up, why is mentally preparing for FIRE just as, if not more important than financially preparing for FIRE? Well, to start out, if nothing else, for your own health. Studies have repeatedly shown that keeping your mind sharp and keeping your mind active can help prevent decay of your brain at absolutely any age. And if I have to explain why that's important, then maybe click off the video and talk to a doctor. So when you're firing, you can't just fire into nothing so you can sit around, watch TV, play video games all day, because your brain's gonna rot. You've got to find that mental stimulation or your health is gonna go downhill pretty fast. And like, again, any influencer will tell you your health is your wealth. And that's why I always like to say you can't just fire to stop working. You have to fire into something. You have to find that passion, find that motivation, find what gets you out of bed in the morning, and whatever works, it works for you. And that is what is important. You can't just fire though because you don't like working, because it's not gonna work. All right, now that we know why it is important to mentally prepare for FIRE, we're gonna talk about how you do it. Now, because I'm sure I'm gonna hear this at some point, I'm pretty open about it too. I have not fired. I'm on my FIRE journey, but I'm not quite there yet. So why do I talk about these things? How do I learn to talk about these things? Well, to quote Warren Buffett, it's good to learn from your mistakes, but it's better to learn from other people's mistakes. So if you follow my podcast or my blog, or even if you just see me on Twitter, I've had the chance to interact with a lot of early retirees, hear about their journeys, hear about their hiccups, where they stumbled, what they did right, what they did wrong, and I'm trying to prevent those mistakes from happening to myself, and I definitely want to prevent them from happening to you too. So that's why I talk about these things and where I learn about what I'm talking about. Back to Twitter though, I was scrolling through the thread, why most people don't prepare to retire, and I found this reply that I really liked from a guy named Online Money Guy. And I'm going to say it, he's got a really good point. In my opinion, that's probably where most people stumble on their FIRE journey. They prepare to FIRE, but then what? And don't get me wrong, firing is a huge goal. For most of us, it'll take 10, 20 plus years of saving, budgeting, investing, and waiting until you hit that magical number so you can walk away and quit your job forever and pursue whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. It's your life. So that FIRE number gets put on such a pedestal by so many people, and I've been guilty of this as well, and I'm trying to break the habit before it gets too ingrained in me, and I hope that you can do the same. That FIRE number, where it is a huge stepping stone, arguably the most important stepping stone on your journey, it's still just a stepping stone. If your life were a movie, you'd hit your FIRE number, then it would all fade to black and a happy ending, but it's not. after you hit that FIRE number, whether you hit it at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 65, whatever it may be, you've got some time left to live. And if you've spent so many years waiting for that one magical point where you'll suddenly be happy because you hit a financial wealth number, it's going to be extremely disappointing. And to the point it may not even be a life worth living, to the extent you don't see why you fired. You're just sitting at home doing nothing. You're going to want to go back to work. You're going to say it was a mistake. You're going to look back and say you wasted 20, 30, 40 years of your life, and nobody wants that. So how do you prepare for it? Well, you got to find your passions. You got to think about what you are retiring to. Do you want to spend more time with family? Do you want to travel the world? Do you have a side hustle or a side business that you want to start, but you don't necessarily care is profitable? Fall into that. Find something like that. Spend some time, maybe even take a little break from your saving and investing journey if you have to. Spend the time to find yourself. FIRE is a journey. Firing is a goal, but it's not the end. And you can't let it define the entirety of who you are because you'll lose yourself on the way. So now that we know how and why to find a purpose before you fire outside of just accumulating a pile of wealth, let's look at a case study. Let's look at someone who you can emulate who has retired early and, at least in my opinion, is doing it pretty right. And for that, I want to highlight my good friend Connor over at Founded Money. Now, first up, if you're not following Connor on this site, make sure follow him on Twitter, follow him on YouTube, give him a sub. He's creating some of the absolute best content on the site, and if you're not checking it out, you're missing out. And I didn't ask Connor before I talked about him in this video, so I hope that little blurb makes up for it. Make sure to sub so he doesn't hate me. Now, if you follow my podcast, Connor and I did an episode a few months back where he talked about what early retirement is like and what it means to him. And luckily, Connor took the time before he retired to plan out what life was like. He didn't accept the buyout on his business and then just go home, sit around, and wait for life to find him. No, when Connor and I spoke, he talked about how he's working on his YouTube channel, which is a bit of a passion project, his blog, his upcoming budgeting course, all of which are side hustles that may not be the most profitable, like I talked about earlier in the video. And then also how he's spending time with his daughter and his family. I believe the last time he and I spoke, he was about to leave on a 6-week vacation, which, especially if you live here in the States, just doesn't happen or isn't possible. And you watch his YouTube videos, you read his blog, you check out his content, he knows what he's talking about. He planned this beforehand. He took a time to decompress from work, and then he found his purpose outside of what his work was, and at least from what he tells me, he seems happier for it, and I do believe him. So if you want to look at an absolute perfect example of how to prepare yourself for FIRE and what you should be doing in early retirement, or at least a good idea of what you can do, make sure to check out Connor. So in conclusion, to wrap up this whole video, FIRE is a mental journey at the same time it's a financial journey. If you focus on just the mental part, or if you focus on just the financial part, it's not going to work out for you. It's a 2-pillar system, and you have to take the time to focus on both, or FIRE just isn't going to work out for you. I don't make the rules, those are just the facts. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to subscribe, like the video, let me know down in the comments how you're getting ready to FIRE, what you think you would do with early retirement, how you would fill those 40 hours that you used to spend at work that now you're spending at home, or whatever you're doing. What would you do? I want to hear. Let me know down in the comments. I love hearing people about their FIRE journey and what they're going to do in their passions. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and check back next week for another FIRE video.